Okay, Lagos, Nigeria world here. We are gone past 6:30 for Thursday morning here on Business Express. We've got a whole lot to talk about. And today's Business Express is brought to you by Stanbic IBTC.
That's right. We'll talk first about the stock market, equity market, if you may, and we'll talk about electricity strikes and how quick they were to suspend it. Rotus is joining in this morning. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Sope. Good morning to our special guest, Afolabi. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers as well.
Good morning, guys.
Yes, and yes, Afolabi Gbenro, who's an equity sales trader with Stanbic IBTC, is joining us for the next 15 minutes. Hi, Afolabi. How are you?
Hi, guys. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes. Okay, so we'd love to get your take on some of these things that we're going to be talking about. Okay, so send your WhatsApp messages in to 0809 440 981. Tweet at us. We are at Smooth981FM. You can also take it to, what am I missing here?
YouTube. It's Smooth981FM Lagos, so you can catch the visuals. We're live right now.
Okay, so let's begin.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, as Victor said, we'll start with the markets because that's where Afolabi, spends his time. Afolabi, how do you describe what we've seen, market activity last few days, weeks, and so on and so forth?
Cool, thanks for that question. So yeah, the market has been relatively quiet. I would say the banks have been the most active in terms of volumes and value traded. We saw some action in the consumer space yesterday, most especially Nestle. Had a particularly big day of trading yesterday. About 2.6 billion worth of shares was traded at 1,300. That was on the back of a structured transaction. Outside of these kind of blocks, the market has just been relatively quiet and volumes have been low. This week in particular, Zenith Bank has been able to sort of defy the trend in the rest of the banking sector, and it's been recording some gains. This is on the back of some aggressive demand in the market. But the likes of GTCO, Access, UBA, there's been some selling pressure in those names. Other names like MTN, Airtel, they've been relatively stable during the week. So that's what the market has been looking like this past week.
Awesome. So, I guess with that kind of feedback on the market, how would you describe the mood of your clients when it comes to our capital markets?
Yeah, so it's still largely bearish. Bearish meaning that there's still sort of like a tendency to sell. There's more focused on the fixed income space versus equity markets now. The NPR rates have been hiked twice this year. So this has made the fixed income space more attractive for investors. International clients are still largely net sellers of the market, with a few long-term investors basically just reinvesting dividends back into the market. But we've not seen any fresh cash coming back into the market from international investors. On the local front, like I mentioned, they are more focused on fixed income instruments, but they're still the major drivers of the market now. I always like to read the NGX report on foreign portfolio participation, and for the month of June, we saw that local participation was at least up from May. So the month of June, we recorded 26.96%. For foreign participation, rather, it was down as low as 7.46% in May. And domestic participation was 73.04% for June, down from 92.54% in May. So that's how it's looking.
Gosh, 92% of the market is domestic investors. So do we attribute that to the FX liquidity issues that we've been seeing in Nigeria?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, over the past couple of years, most of our international clients have been complaining about challenges with getting their funds out of Nigeria after they sell. So as a result of that, they're not necessarily willing to bring in more funds. So that's why we've seen a tilt towards more of domestic participation in the market.
Interesting. Speaking of, yeah, go ahead, Shokwe.
Yeah, I was going to say, so this next question is an interesting one, right? Saudi Arabia's moves, right? Their money moves, how they use their oil proceeds to purchase like $7.5 billion worth of US stocks. What's the message for Nigeria in that?
I mean, for me, it's just an indication of where we can be as a country. Looking at that story, the sovereign wealth fund, rather, of Saudi Arabia took on minority stakes in about 17 companies in the US, ranging from Alphabet, BlackRock, Microsoft, and looking at that story, it says that each of the investments is about $400 to $500 million in value. So that's quite huge. I mean, it's just a clear signal of where we could be, as a country.
See, here's the thing, okay? So Afolabi, I don't like this because every time when I saw that news, I had to put my hands on my head. I was like, Nigeria, where art thou, Nigeria? It's like when we used to, when Dubai first opened up for us, right? And we were seeing all these videos of Dubai before 20 years ago and then Dubai now and all how oil money basically created this beautiful, place. And then everybody would now come back to Nigeria and be like, okay, so here we are. That's all. I just had to put that in.
No, it's a great point that Sope brings up. And to piggyback on that point, oil thefts, Afolabi, it seems that's one of the main reasons why we're not able to profit from the higher oil prices that Saudi Arabia has profited from, which has allowed them to put all that money into US stocks. Is it at the foot of the government to solve this oil theft matter?
I mean, speaking on oil theft, it's actually a really serious issue. I mean, reading up about it, the World Bank and the IMF have warned us, a couple of times that, the impact of oil theft can literally bring our economy to its knees. Oil companies have been reporting massive thefts in their production, and the NNPC has basically said that in the first quarter alone of 2022, almost about 434 billion naira has been lost to theft and vandalism, which is quite a lot. And for 2021, about $4 billion was lost to oil theft. So it's quite it's a huge one. I would say the primary responsibility is on the government, but there are still other stakeholders that are involved in solving this problem. But the primary responsibility, I would say, falls on the feet of the government.
Just imagine those numbers. Saudi Arabia spent $7.5 billion on stocks. Nigeria lost $4 billion on oil theft. So that's more than half of the money that Saudi Arabia spends buying stocks. Yeah. It's crazy. Quickly though, this electricity matter. See, me, honestly, I just confess something to all our listeners. Whenever I hear the grid has collapsed or there's a strike in electricity, it doesn't faze me because I don't really tell the difference. I mean, anyway, to be fair, I think we've had some electricity this past few weeks. Maybe I would say.
Yeah, we had some improvements.
Yeah. So, but whenever I hear that the grid has collapsed, I just like, oh, okay, I don't feel there's any difference. But Afolabi, I heard they called off their strike, the electricity. Yeah. So what was all this about? Is it a promotion? They didn't want to sit for promotion interviews or something. That was the issue?
Yeah, basically. But I mean, I would say it's a good thing that they called off the strike because if you look at it, if you're monitoring, the usage between diesel and the national grid, it's quite a huge difference when you're running either your business or your home on diesel alone. I mean, the price of diesel hikes aggressively, this year, and the knock-on effect on that is quite significant. So I'll first say it's good that the strike has been called off, because you can imagine trying to just going without pay. I feel it's in my own house process. I know you say you don't know the difference, but
I just don't get the difference. There's never lights. That's my issue. There's never any lights. So
but it's been good. I mean,
it doesn't collapse.
No, but it's been, so I mean, in my own area, it's been almost constant this past couple of weeks. So it's been. Yeah.
Improved. But my question would be, you have internal issues, internal disputes with regards promotions. Why bring Nigeria, the whole of the country, into it? So let's assume that I work at Smooth FM and I want to be promoted, or I don't even want to write an exams for it, and I decide to shut down the station. Nobody will listen to Smooth FM again. Can you imagine that?
I have to say, that reeks of absolute power. What on earth? That everybody gets to stay in darkness because you're annoyed of promotions?
So that's the thing about unions, though, because I mean, if you look at the whole side of the story, unions actually have an important role, in businesses. Unions are basically meant to be there to represent the workers. You can imagine having an industry where there's no sort of accountability and that kind of a thing. Things go unchecked. I'm just trying to bring another side of the the other side of the coin to the table. So I guess it's all about, because on the one hand, you bring the whole country to a standstill. There's the knock-on effects on the economy and everything. But on the other hand, it's about the role of unions, in protecting, and it's not just in this industry, it's in other industries as well. The unions
and
actually do
this
pay.
is why in the UK, when Margaret Thatcher went about with her union busting, even though the unions hated her, the country got better.
Anyways, I rest my case.
I tell you.
I'm sorry, I don't like living in darkness. And I like it even less when you go on strike and you're just giving me extra darkness when I've already been managing the darkness you've been giving me before. That's all I'm going to say.
Darkness.
Yes, extra darkness.
Oh my God. Afolabi, what's your outlook for the market? I guess go back to the capital markets. What's your outlook for the market? I guess for the rest of August.
Okay, so we don't see any short-term catalysts outside of most of the listed companies have reported their earnings, and earnings are usually a trigger for the markets. We have a couple of them outstanding, the ones that are auditing their results, their half-year results. So there's an expectation of some corporate actions to be declared on the back of that. So that could potentially spur some activities. We're expecting that towards the end of August. Outside of that, there's no real short-term catalyst for the market. So it's probably going to be more of the same sort of quiet and bearish trend that we've been seeing.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
go ahead.
Let's just, we're basically coming to the end of the show. So let me put in this message from Ogene Ochuko, who says, despite the abundance of energy resources, power is still not stable. We need a reputable power company to manage our energy section. Let's take away vested interests. This one in from Michael Adetutu says, I have never liked unions, even though they play an important role. But if the regulators do their jobs, unions would not exist. An example is PenCom. PenCom meets pensions companies and takes a look at their salaries, and when promotions are done, they also compare it with competitive markets. That is what other regulators should start doing, and more of what unions should do.
All right, Yinka Bolu has a message here. He says, sake of simplicity.
I think for the sake of simplicity.
Okay, for the sake of simplicity, let us assume that those responsible for the crude oil theft are humans. Can we agree on one thing? If we ever get to catch them, aside from establishing that they are mad, they also need to be shot in the head. What part of this thing is hurting all of us? Don't they get? Though I still believe that the IOCs know a thing or two about these thefts, people like me can't steal crude. Why and how will I transport it?
But Yinka Bolu, please, that visual this early in the morning. A bit of a shocker. All right, so yeah, he is. And we've come to the end of the show. Oh my goodness. But the conversation continues. It continues up on Twitter, and you can have a conversation and check out Stanbic IBTC. Actually, what's your handle again? At Stanbic IBTC?
Yes, and at Stanbic IBTC.
At Stanbic. Yes.
Yeah.
And you can find Rotas at Rotanquote, and tag us in your tweets at Smooth981FM. So I'd just like to say a thank you to our guest, Afolabi Gbenro, who's an equity sales trader with Stanbic IBTC.
Thank you guys for having me.
For joining us. And thank you, Rotas. And looking forward to tomorrow and Tech Friday.
Yes, Tech Friday should be fun tomorrow. Should be fun.
That's right.
Yes.